It's not often that Digital Foundry is a part of the news. Well, maybe that's not strictly true. But this week we were caught up in the deal that Gamer Network, well, rather, Reed Exhibitions, who owned Gamer Network, has now sold out to IGN, which means that essentially, well, Digital Foundry is a joint venture between Gamer Network and, well, me. And what this means is that IGN essentially has bought Gamer Network and therefore has bought the shares that Gamer Network has in Digital Foundry. And yeah, I mean, the issue here is that the acquisition was announced in tandem with the announcement that there'd be a number of layoffs within Gamer Network, even before the integration into IGN has begun. A lot of questions, obviously, people are having about the extent to which Digital Foundry may be affected or may be changed. And it's a tricky one because going into this, I was actually quite looking forward to this announcement going out. And that might sound quite bizarre to many, bearing in mind the discourse this week, but let me explain. Gamer Network was acquired by an events company, Reed Exhibitions, Reed Pop. And over the, first couple of years seemed okay, but it kind of quickly became evident that Reed Pop wasn't really fully invested in the gaming websites. There was little interest in actually growing them. And to all intents and purposes, Gamer Network was left to its own devices with a strictly limited series of resources, which limited what the firm could do to adapt in a fiercely competitive and dynamic market. And so I was quite looking forward to this acquisition being announced because, well, IGN is owned by Ziff Davis. They're fully committed to the gaming market. And the amount of resources and talent they have behind the scenes is actually hugely empowering for a very small outfit like Digital Foundry, right? And over the years, IGN has been, very complimentary about our work. And, in pre-sale discussions, it was clear that they had a lot of enthusiasm for what we were doing. It's very difficult to communicate that when we're actually seeing a lot of our colleagues at Gamer Network laid off. And it really sort of was a massive downer because, a lot of good people are losing their jobs. It's never great. Mm-hmm. And what it means is that we're going into this acquisition with a kind of, into this transition rather, with a lot of fear and uncertainty about what's going to happen to the brands. And this is kind of reflected in some of the questions we had. So let's go through them in turn. This one from Generative Alcoholism. John said on Twitter that DF would be quote unquote better as a result of the IGN acquisition. Can you elaborate on why this is the case? Yeah, I had a word with you about that, John, because, it was kind of like, it is actually true.
Yes.
But when you're facing this massive amount of discourse about people losing their jobs and consolidation in the industry, stuff like that, it certainly seems a bit discordant. But the fact is, as I just said, we were the Digital Foundry shares owned by Gamer Network were essentially controlled by an events company that weren't best equipped to deal with the games business. Ooh. So, basically what's happening now is that outfit has been replaced by one who is fully committed to the games business. And that does have, potentially exciting implications for Digital Foundry, right? I don't think there's too much more to add to that. Is that what you meant, John?
That's exactly what I meant, which is we were basically being limited by the prior company, right? They didn't really have an interest in us. They didn't really invest a lot of time, effort, money into us. We just kind of did what we could and got by. But I feel like this at least gives us a shot at getting actual support from a company that's like in this space rather than just like being in a side thing. Because I mean, it's obviously Repop kept the EGX stuff, right? They kept the event stuff for themselves.
They've kept the events,
which to me, it always seemed like that's what they wanted in the first place. They took all the other sites along with them, but they only wanted the events. And then when the pandemic happened, we saw the true the reality of the situation. Although I would argue that having digital business probably helped a lot during that time period when they couldn't have events. So, I don't know. It's just, didn't feel that positive about the prior company, shall we say. And at least this stands a chance of improving things and allowing us to do more of what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is fundamentally the case. This question from Gian. Hey DF team, exclamation point. Will the acquisition of Gamer Network by IGN have any impact on DF? Which is a really good question, right? Because obviously there was this kind of wave of negativity that accompanied the announcement of the acquisition. And that's going to be the first thing that people are going to be asking if they're particularly invested in what we do. And, have any impact? I'm hoping it will only be positive impact, simply because we will have a partner that actually understands games for once and really is invested in what we do. But I think it's fair to say that, the buyout has happened. We've only had very limited discussions with the management there about what their plans are, but we certainly don't have any sort of wish to change what we are, who we are, and how we do it, because I think that would be counterproductive to all people concerned.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're going to spend this massive amount to acquire Gamer Network and by extension a chunk of Digital Foundry, you, in theory, want that to grow and prosper.
Yeah.
As opposed to, the opposite.
And that is just a chunk, like you said. They don't have full ownership of DF. So
that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a partnership more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Which again sort of makes the case for independence a lot sort of stronger. This question by Leftist Hominid. Does the acquisition mean that Wheel's DF adaptations will appear on IGN? Also, does this increase the probability that DF folks will be invited onto IGN podcasts more often? For example, John has been on Nintendo Voice Chat before. What's Nintendo Voice Chat? A podcast, I assume, John?
Yeah, it's one of the IGN... it's a Nintendo-related podcast, as the name would imply. So I was on there talking about Xenoblade, I believe, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, if I recall.
Well, we've done collaborations in the past, and there's no reason why we can't do more of them. The issue is always time and bandwidth, of which we have vanishingly small amounts. So, in terms of where DF content appears, that nothing has been formally agreed yet, so I can't really say anything on that front. Just have to wait and see. This one from Alan, the legendary Alan on the Discord. Hi DF team, I'd like to address the elephant named IGN in the Foundry. I know Richard doesn't like to talk about corpos, and it isn't fair to ask. Corpos. Exclamation point. However, in the last few days, while grazing the gaming community pastures, I've seen a lot of worried people in comments. One even claimed, quote unquote, "This is the death of DF!" Exclamation point. Are you able to put us Foundrians' minds at ease? Well, sure, because ultimately, if if things aren't going the way we want them to go, we can always leave.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the bottom line. But it's not in the interests of anybody for that to happen, right? And ultimately, we just want a really strong partner that can enable us to do more and do better. And given the choice between ReadPop and IGN, it's a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of actual positives to this. It's just really disappointing that in tandem with the announcement being made was the announcement that a lot of people in Gamer Network are going to be losing their jobs. And to be clear, nobody at Digital Foundry is affected by that. So, it's just really sad that people are losing their jobs.
This is my feeling mainly. It's only been a couple of days since the announcement internally. Went into the day thinking this is going to be all smiles, all roses, but the layoffs have been quite a shock, especially internally. I work at the office here in Brighton, and it's been quite a tough few days. And I won't name names and talk about the people affected specifically, but they will have made themselves known on Twitter, and I really just wish them all the best for the future.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Also, I mean, he uses the word corpo, which is funny, but like Relics and all that whole thing that we were a part of, they're a lot bigger than Ziff Davis in terms of overall number of employees. It's a bigger company.
Yeah.
Like Relics itself is listed as having 36,000 plus employees. That's not small.
And not many of them to do with gaming.
No, not at all. So we're coming from a really big corporate entity to a still corporate but smaller entity.
Yeah, and the extent of the influence that they can have is necessarily limited because they don't have full ownership of the business. So I'd just like to put it out there that, as far as we're concerned, it's business as usual. We're going to continue doing what we're going to be doing. Our staff lineup remains the same. And, the whole atmosphere right now is really, quite sad and despondent.
Yeah,
But there are, certainly where we're heading, I'm hoping it's in a positive direction with that level of partnership involved. That's all we've got to say about that, really, because we haven't even officially met the IGN leadership yet.
It's true.
Which happens next week, and we should have more of an idea on what they want to bring to the party at that point, which potentially should be pretty good. I mean, it's no secret that people have been fully aware of the limitations of read pop in the gaming business, and that's the reason why Gamer Network lost so many staff over the last few years, most of them to IGN, oddly enough, and Vox Media, of course. And so, it's kind of weird that a lot of our old colleagues are now colleagues again.
We're rejoining them,
which is actually quite fantastic. But yes, business as usual for now, and going forward, there should only be good things.